Hey guys, in January 2004, a 13 years old Magnus Carlsen played the C group of the Corus chess tournament C. His rating was already like 2484. He finished first in this tournament with 10.5 points out of 13 and played for a spectacular performance rating of 2700. In this competition he got his first Grandmaster norm, and by the way, few months later, in April of the same year, in Dubai Open, he got his third and final Grandmaster norm. This is probably his best victory in Corus 2004. In this game, he played a series of deep and strong sacrifices until he checkmated his opponent Ernst Sipke in this curious position. So he played e4 and black played c6, Caro-Kann, d4, d5. Here we can do three main options like defend the pawn, advance the pawn, or exchange on d5. This time he's going to defend with knight c3, d takes e4, knight takes e4, and bishop a5, developing and attacking. Knight g3 is also attacking the bishop, and when the bishop goes back to g6, there is this move h4, wanting to trap the bishop over there. So black needs to play h6 to clear this square, knight f3, and knight d7, h5, bishop goes back, and then we develop and we offer trade. Bishop takes, queen takes, and then e6. This is a very theoretical position. Bishop f4, knight from g to f6, and castling queenside. After bishop e7, he's playing knight e4, and then queen a5 is attacking the pawn on a2. So Magnus needs to play here king b1, defending that pawn. Black castles. There's a trade here on f6, and after knight takes f6, this very normal move, knight e5. In these positions we have a very small space advantage in the center, so we need to try to exploit the square e5. Also, there is a half open file on e, so usually white needs to control and take advantage of that half open file. Rook a d8 was played. It's putting the rook on the same line as the queen, probably threatening things like c5. Magnus plays queen e2. Actually, a more normal and common move here is queen g3, threatening things like bishop takes h6 and putting the queen on the same line. However, Magnus was also threatening some things. Observe, he's putting the queen on the same line as the unprotected bishop on e7, so there might be some interesting ideas with this move. Black is playing here c5, and this is actually a mistake. He's falling into a well-known theme in this Caro-Kann variation. Here Magnus is going to start with the first sacrifice of a series of Sacs, and he's going to play the first one here. It's a really nice move, but also thematic move for these positions, and it is this idea, knight g6. He's forking rook and bishop here, and well, the main idea is that he's trading the bishop, and this is an open position, but also he could be getting one pawn if black doesn't accept the sacrifice. In the game he took, but actually the best move for black here was rook f e8, and then, well, as you can imagine, we need to trade that bishop, like knight takes bishop, knight takes e7, rook takes e7, and then we can get the pawn on c5, like d takes c5. This position is already fine for white. We have a pawn up, and observe, black cannot take it right now because the rook is hanging on d8, but also if they try to trade and then get the pawn on c5, there could be a fork over here with bishop d6, and probably they are getting a rook up. So after d takes c5, we have a pawn up. A move they could try something like rook d7, and then there might be a trade on d7, and then a move like bishop e3, defending the pawn. And this position is slightly better for white. A pawn up, bishop versus knight, so it looks fine for white. It's still a long game, but it's a good position. In the game, after knight g6, he took the knight, but this is actually a mistake. Now, after queen takes e6, this position is going to be winning for white. Observe, we are getting the bishop, and a move like rook f7, defending, is not working because we are taking and then getting the rook later. So he just played here king h8. In the game, Carlsen played h takes g6. Observe that taking the bishop directly is not really a good move. because then there could be a fork with knight d5, attacking queen, attacking bishop on f4. So knight d5, and well, they can still save the piece by playing bishop d2, counter-attacking the queen, and after knight takes queen, bishop takes queen, we're attacking the rook. So black needs to play b6, but this position is good. It's still fine for black. Observe, they are attacking the bishop, they are attacking d4, and they are attacking f2. So they are getting the pawn back in this line, so they don't have any real problem in this position. That's why after king h8, he doesn't take the bishop. Instead of that, he finds the right move, h takes g6, and the idea is that now he's going to maintain all the threats. He's still taking the bishop, but now he has more ideas like bishop takes pawn, or even rook takes pawn in some lines. So this is just winning for white. Knight g8 was played, is defending the bishop, but also is protecting very well this square h6, and now Magnus is going to play the second sacrifice in this game, and I will say it right now, it is this move, bishop takes h6. And well, let's try to understand it. Black has two main options here, like pawn takes or knight takes bishop. After knight takes bishop, the win is going to be more or less simple. We just play rook takes h6, and after the pawn takes, queen takes bishop, and now the queen is on the 7th rank. Usually the queen on the 7th rank connected to some other piece is going to be very powerful. There's no way to stop queen h7. This is just win for white. So that's why knight takes bishop is not working, and that's why in the game Ernst just played g takes h6. And in this position, white to move, and a 13 years old Magnus Carlsen played the third sacrifice, and it is this move, rook takes h6. If the king moves to g7, we have rook h7, and it is going to be checkmate, so black is forced to capture that rook, and then we continue with a similar plan. Now the queen takes e7, the queen is on the 7th rank, there's a checkmate threat, and well, maybe there is some way to block over there, but the problem is that the king is very open and we have a rook. So with the rook, the queen, and the pawn, we can still create too many problems for black. In the game, knight f7 is blocking the queen, but then g takes f7 is going to create many threats. For example, right now white is threatening queen f6, and when the king goes up, we can play rook h1, so we are threatening checkmate into here. That's why in the game black is playing king g7, moving the king away from the open file, but also controlling f6, and then Magnus finds this strong idea, rook d3, and he's lifting the rook, going to the king side over the 3rd rank. Black plays rook d6, trying to cover a little the king. Actually, probably the best move here is something like queen b6, trying to block with the queen, and after some check, block over there, and if there is a capture, king takes, and then something like d5. The rook cannot take because then queen e6 is getting the rook. So this position is very good for white. They have like a queen and probably like 4 pawns against 2 rooks, so it's decisive advantage for white, but well, it's a little better than what happened in the game after rook d3 with this line or this move rook d6. Then he played rook g3 check, and black just blocked. Observe, there's an interesting line here. If king h7, we cannot take a rook here because there is queen a1 checkmate, and queen h4 is not yet checkmate because he's blocking. So the right move here is some kind of in between queen e4 check, and once we misplace the king, like for example king h8, now we can play queen h4, and this is going to be checkmate. After the rook here, we just take the rook, and that's mate. So after rook g3, black just played rook g6 instead. And well, in this position there is this check queen e5, and this is very strong. Here black has two main options, king f7, king h7. In the game he took the pawn, but let's see what could have happened after king h7. Then well, we give a check here on h5, we give another check on f5, and when the king goes to h8 we use the diagonal, and this is going to be winning. After king h7 we have mate over g7. So after queen e5 he just takes the pawn on f7, and then there is this accurate move queen f5, and well, here two main options, we could say, like rook f6 or king e7. In the game, well, he played rook f6, and then this nice mate we saw at the beginning of the video, queen d7, is just checkmate. The other line is when black plays here king e7, but this is going to be losing. In other variations, white is taking the two rooks, at least the two rooks with checks, so it's going to be an easy win. So for example, like king e7, we can play rook e3 check, and the king has to go here or here, and then we're capturing rooks with checks, so it's winning. For example, king d8, queen takes rook check, and king c7, queen f7 check. So in the next move, we're probably taking the rook with check, or playing rook e8 also check. So it's winning either way. Also the rook is guarding e1, so there won't be any mate e1. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. If you want to master calculation in chess, check out this interesting video. I'm sure you will enjoy it, and it will help you a lot. Thank you guys, like, subscribe, see you on the next.